Hey guys, Rob from Georgia here with you, aka VHS82 apostrophe, with episode 17 of our Space 1999 ongoing series, thankfully ongoing. I was just thinking we're only, about 7 episodes away from the end of year one, and that will be singularly, I think, the best thing I've accomplished on my own personal channel, short of the shelf by shelves and all that junk. This is really, I'm liking it. Episode 17, War Games. We are officially on disc number 5 of year one. There's only 6 discs, so we are seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. And you just have to, if my brain fogs up, last few days really just sick. Coming out of it though. War Games, another Charles Crichton directed episode. Of course, we are working off the beautiful Shout Factory release of Space 1999, where proof's in the pudding, man. I mean, the visuals, the practicals, they live up to the moment. These are some ingenious pieces of work, right? War Games, interesting to note, aired September 25th, 1975. But the interesting note here is there are 2 aliens here that sort of take center stage of most of the narrative, or just the plot structure when we really get into it. But one is played by Anthony Valentine, and he is Dr. Simpson on Tower of Evil, if you're familiar with that one, aka horror on Snape Island, British island horror from the 70s. I almost want to say 72, is it that early? And then the female alien, Isla Blair. I don't know if that name rings a bell with you, but she was Lucy in Taste of the Blood of Dracula. And they both bring it, man. They both bring it in their respective roles. So what do we got here, man? This one is visually is just a feast for the eyes. This is a lot of early eye-popping eye candy. No pun intended, since we just came out of Killer Clown Horror Week at Body Bags. There is a lot of eye candy here, visually speaking, and it is a little bit of a, maybe more than a little bit of some, what we call nightmare horror. It is really sort of surreal. It opens up with our group there on Moonbase Alpha. They detect enemy ships coming in, and so Alan Carter leads an Eagle Defense Force up to meet and engage the enemies. But what makes this enemy really different is the 3 warships that are barreling down are older Eagle Warhawks. They're their own ships from the past, or slight past, right? And so immediately Koenig understands this is war, but this is surreal because where would old Earth Warhawks be coming from? Or why would an alien entity world have them? So it really begins sort of surreal, but then seemingly Alan dispatches, him and his group dispatch pretty easily. In fact, he even says after the 3rd one is blown up, that was a little too easy, and it was, because there is another force coming around. They were just sort of the decoys. The other force is coming around, and they just begin to lay waste to Moonbase Alpha. When I say they lay waste, I mean when they're done, there's like really nothing left. And some of the practicals, we see explosions, people being sucked out into space. I mean, they built, vertical corridors, had people, with lines on them, and then, use of the camera trick, just, pull them up out through the doorway. But of course, for us, it looks like they're literally being sucked out into space. There's a lot of carnage. If that's not enough, man, this alien world sends this massive bomber that's going to just basically blow the moon into smithereens. But at the moment, Alan Carter has been, his ship has been damaged, and so he's just sort of floating in space there. And so he's dead, and well, still, why do the aliens ignore him? I'm not sure, but they go right on by him, and that gives him the opportunity to blow up the bomber. Everything still seems sort of surreal and weird and easy, and yet Moonbase Alpha is in just a mess. I mean, and it doesn't take them long to realize that under the present conditions, they are going to die. It's just a matter of time. More than half of the population of Moonbase Alpha is dead. Everything is pretty much, I mean, all their resources are blown to smithereens. And they're just now literally a floating rock of death. And so Koenig and Helena do the only thing they can do. They take an Eagle One, the only one remaining, I think, and they go down to the planet surface and attempt to use some diplomacy and really just beg and plead and for some understanding of why this has happened. Now that's where we really start getting into, I don't know if I really want to get into too many spoilers. I know this is just a TV show from the early 70s. I don't know. It's interesting how this plays out. And the writing, well, I'll just go a little bit further. They get down there and they start having their dialogue, and it becomes very apparent that the alien, the male alien who is talking to Koenig, basically lays out this scenario of extinction. Like, you're not going to be out here anymore. You don't belong out here in space, and you are going to die. So just face your fear. And that really becomes sort of the undercurrent thinking in this whole episode, is facing one's fear and fears that are manipulated and used against you to your own destruction. And so, but the aliens, I mean, a lot of what they do, they basically, in the end, they utilize Koenig's fear against himself in terms of being the commander of Moonbase Alpha. And so the decisions he makes are faulty decisions, and they only work to bring about the final end destruction of Moonbase Alpha. But we know this is an ongoing TV series, so we're going to come out from under this somehow. So you find out almost sort of, let's bring some Italian horror in, some Nightmare City sort of end logic, where you realize you come out the other side. You're going to come out the other side. I don't want to like lay it down perfectly, but the whole mess is really just sort of a nightmarish mirage of what's real and not real. And really there's not a whole lot that is real. And so Koenig, though, in his dialogue with the alien, he just loses it. And when he tries to react, they basically kill him. But then they do something weird. They give Helen an opportunity to taste, even though they just got done saying there's no place for humanity out here. They give Helen a taste of what it's like to be with them. And so she suddenly has all these newfound powers at her fingertips. And so her love for John, she not only will bring him back from the dead not once, but twice, to the detriment of the aliens. That's why some of this stuff really doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It's almost kind of like the use of free will to an extent, but there's only so much the aliens can. I mean, some of it just doesn't really make a whole lot of logical sense. You get where they're going, and it is a phenomenal episode, and especially in terms of its eye-popping visuals. It is amazing what they pull off in this episode. But some of the narrative logic, it just isn't quite as tight as you would want it. And so you come out the other end of this, and you really left sort of thinking, well, what was the whole purpose of a lot of this? Because it just didn't make as much logical sense. But there's a really interesting moment where Koenig, in his desperate plea before the alien, he says this: "Ever since we blasted away from Earth, we have been fighting for survival. We have survived. How, I don't know. There is no rational explanation, but I do have is an absolute faith in the strength of the human spirit and the belief that something or someone is looking after us." And this goes back to this idea of divine providence, that call it God. I think he says, call it God, if you will. Something is guiding them. And so that increases their level of faith that no matter how dire their circumstances are, somehow they're going to pull through this, because something else is there with them or guiding them. And that is an interesting, I think will be explored to much more logical way the last episode of the year one. And so we'll see that when we eventually get there. And so there is that play on that, which is utilized to pretty good effect. But this ongoing conflict between the two aliens and Helena and Koenig, and ultimately Koenig, when he's brought back a second time, he eventually will like escape the planet, get back to Moonbase Alpha, and lead Operation Exodus to basically, if they have to, fight for a piece of ground on this planet and basically fight for their existence. Well, the aliens aren't going to have any of it, right? But Koenig's ship is basically blown up, and he's left floating in space. And of course, Helena will bring him back, and so when he comes down onto the planet, he just unleashes, man, and just starts blowing things up, and everything technologically, I would imagine it's like it's an interesting domino effect. It's like once you knock something down, the next thing goes, and the next thing, and it's just this domino effect. And so, but ultimately, in the end, in this massive illusion of carnage, Koenig and Helena now find themselves back on Moonbase Alpha. Nothing has happened, although the Warhawks are zooming in. It's almost kind of like you're back at the very beginning, and now suddenly Koenig has this moment of realization and wisdom and decides, I don't care what it looks like, don't fire a shot. And it's at that point where the illusion is made manifest, and the aliens basically, in their own way, congratulate them, but then pat them on the back and let them go on their way. So basically that's it in a nutshell. And it is, man, just to be reminded on how good practicals can be done, the map paintings, visually, the miniatures. I mean, this is just an extravaganza of just an eye-popping feast to behold. Anyways, so War Games. Maybe the most interesting seed in this is this idea of this divine hand of providence that is guiding them, and they'll come back to this again. This seems to be an overarching theme across the entire Space 1999. But this is a good one, man. This is definitely a good one. If you can, I don't know if it's on YouTube or not, as a solitary pop-up, whatever. But if you can somehow find this one, it is pretty amazing in terms of visually speaking. The logic of the writing could have been tightened up a little bit, but it was fun, man. It was fun nonetheless, man. As always, go Bills and go Bulldogs. They barely scraped one out last night, but we did, and we're undefeated, and a lot of work to do. But as always, man, peace.